of Zoning Appeals for this evening's meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise to state our Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is here in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
I would. Mr. Ferrucci.
Here.
Mr. Grinsley.
Here.
Mr. Sylvie.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
And we welcome Greg Lannon.
Here.
Thank you.
Welcome, Greg.
Thanks.
You're
Happy to be here.
The first order of business is approval of our previous minutes on August 24th of 2022. Do you have any additions, modifications, or revisions to that? Do you have a motion to approve or accept our minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain?
Oh, yeah, I'll stay.
Mr. Lannon abstains. Very good. So the minutes from the previous meeting have been approved. This time I'll open the public hearing. The first order of business is VA 22-13, the Starbucks on 96th Street. Bill Niemeyer, I hope I'm saying that correctly, on behalf of Starbucks is requesting a consideration of a variance of land use from ordinance number 090391A, the Lantern Pines PUD, section 2.C2, to allow for a drive-through pickup window to be utilized at Starbucks. The site is zoned PUD Lantern Pines with an address of 8880 East 96th Street, generally located north of 96th Street and east of Lantern Road. Mr. Niemeyer?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's absolutely perfect on the pronunciation.
Thank you very much. Do we have someone that's going to present your petition for you to this evening, or are you going to do that?
I'll do that.
Okay, please do. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Ferrucci and members of the board. I represent Ivacor LLC, who is the current owner of the real estate. The property is under contract to be purchased by an entity that I'm actually an employee of, and that is Onra LLC, which is a company affiliated with Tharp Investments. This property is the former Donato's Pizza building, and as we explored what was required in order to, we're going to literally tear that building down and construct a new building for Starbucks, it was brought to my attention that the only variance that was required was a variance for a drive-through window. The Donato's Pizza had a variance for drive-through, but it was use-specific, not property-specific. So the request that I am making is consistent with not only neighboring uses, but the exact use that was on the property itself before the new use, except for people be picking up coffee instead of pizzas. So in a nutshell, we are requesting a variance to allow the drive-through window, very consistent with what was previously approved at this property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd ask the staff to present.
Yeah, jumped the gun there. Thank
Thank
you. Good afternoon. Fisher's BZA presented before you is VA 2213, a consideration of a land use variance at 8880 East 96th Street. The specific request is to permit a drive-through business use at the identified location. The Lantern Pines PUD governs this area and subsequently does not permit drive-through businesses in the specified location. Therefore, the proposed Starbucks at this location is seeking a variance in order to operate their business as a drive-through and pickup restaurant. Identified here are other drive-through businesses. In fact, the subject site was formerly a Donato's Pizzeria, as previously mentioned. This slide depicts the subject site more closely. Again, this was formerly a pizzeria with a drive-through. This slide depicts the proposed site plan layout for the Starbucks, which will involve full redevelopment of the site. Cars may enter from either of the existing curb cut access points heading west towards the drive-through aisle stacking lane. The project will also include a pedestrian connection to the 96th Street sidewalk network. Here's some of the elevations for the Starbucks development. These elevations have not yet received PUD committee approval. However, the overall building footprint and form is not likely to change. Staff have requested that along the eastern-facing elevation, which will face customers entering the property, that public art, specifically a mural, be added to the facade as an amenity to the site, neighborhood, and broader 96th Street corridor. This will likely be discussed further momentarily. However, I would like to point out that at the new Starbucks on Publishers Drive was approved by the PUD committee recently that as a condition of their approval, public art on the same elevation was required. No public comments have been received by me at the time of preparing this presentation. Staff recommends approval to the board of a variance from ordinance number, as shown, of the Lantern Pines PUD Section 2C2 to allow for a drive-through pickup window. Staff feels the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will permit a desired commercial use in the area. Should the board approve of this decision, staff recommends it is done with the condition that 1, the variance is recorded on the property with the county, and 2, that the petitioner agree that public art, a mural, be installed on the eastern facade of the proposed building as identified previously. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. If anyone is here to speak as to this petition, I'd ask you to please approach the podium and state your name and address. Seeing no one from the public, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board, do we have any questions for the petitioner or staff?
No.
I guess I have one question for the staff. I'm trying to visualize, I know where that Donato's is. Is there another Starbucks near 96 and Lantern?
It's being closed and relocated to this location.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Niemeyer. No further questions.
Okay, we have no further questions. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. I would make a motion that we approve petition VA-22-13 with the conditions that the variance is recorded on the property with the county, and then also the condition that the public art be required to be installed at the location shown by staff.
Thank you, Howard. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Okay?
Mr. Grinsley,
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie,
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Lannon,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Niemeyer. Our next order of business is VA 22-14, Legacy Bible Church, and this is for temporary classroom variance. This is not with respect to a special exception, which has already been voted on. Craig Elliott, on behalf of Legacy Bible Church, is applying for a variance of use from UDO Section 5.8.1H to allow temporary classrooms to be placed on site for up to 5 years to accommodate the growth of the church while they construct permanent additional space. The site is zoned R2 and is located at 13490 Howe Road between 131st Street and 141st Street in Fishers. Mr. Elliott,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you for allowing us to make this request. As you can see on our church growth attendance records over the last several years, our growth over the last year, which is only 9 months so far, has been almost 25%. And this is normally, prior to COVID, it's 6 to 7%. So this is, in 1 year, we've grown 3 years worth of growth. So that's kind of what's prompted this problem. Our current situation, we have 225 parking spaces, and our sanctuary seats 400. And currently, we're running one church service and then an hour of Sunday school afterwards. We're planning to move to 2 services to help alleviate the parking and seating issues, but it creates the third problem for our classroom space. So the portable classrooms would help bridge that gap till we can find a permanent solution for that. And the 90-day restriction just doesn't give us enough time to do that. You can see from a schedule for if we could get the classrooms in before the first of the year, and then everything that we would need to do with design and zoning and permitting and construction documents, construction completed, we'd be out into 2025. And so we'd like to request 5 years, and hopefully we can complete it sooner. Looking at the site, the kind of the violet colored rectangles there would be the two 24 by 44 temporary classrooms, and that'd be on the east side of the building. This would be the view from Howell Road, so you wouldn't be able to see those buildings at all. The structure now would hide that. And this would be a view from actually the back of our parking lot looking west. And then a view from the southeast looking kind of northwest. In our original zoning back in 2018, there were two issues that seemed to come up with traffic and lighting as an issue. But since we're adding the second service, it'll be actually earlier. So we would be there from 7:30 to noon on Sunday, and now we're there from 9 to noon. So any traffic would be spread out over 4.5 hours instead of just 3. And then site and security lighting won't change. We won't need to add any additional lighting for that. In the last 8 months while we've been in our new building, we've had 2 blood drives, and we're the polling site for Fall Creek 2nd District. And Fisher's Music Works has had 2 concerts in our building. Thank you. Any questions?
I neglected to inform you and the public that I will be abstaining from any vote today. There is a quorum to conduct business. In order for your motion to pass, you need 3 successful votes. It's my understanding that the law firm I work for has done work for the Bible Church. I personally have not, but I'm going to abstain from any vote here today.
Okay.
Okay? So thank you very much. We'd ask staff to step forward and present.
Well, good evening. My name is Tyler Folk. I am a city planner here at the City of Fishers, here to present the staff report on VA 22-14, the Legacy Bible Church temporary classrooms use variance. As stated, the petitioner is Craig Elliott on behalf of Legacy Bible Church, and the specific request is for the consideration of a land use variance to allow for 2 temporary classrooms for a maximum of 5 years. This would be a variance from the Fishers Unified Development Ordinance, Section 5.8.1, which states that cumulatively all temporary use permits issued on a lot shall not exceed 120 days per calendar year or 90 days consecutively. Legacy Bible Church is located at 13490 Howe Road. It is currently zoned R2 and generally located between East 131st Street and East 141st Street. Some quick history of the zoning of this church. A special exception was granted in September 2018. Was approved by the Fall Creek Board of Zoning Appeals to allow a place of worship on an R2 zone property. Per this special exception, Legacy Bible Church shall not operate a daycare, school, or preschool. After that, in December of 2020, an appeal of administrative determination was requested and approved, and that appeal really clarified the language of the special exception and required additional buffering along the southern property line. Existing conditions on the lot. Here we see Legacy Bible Church. It is surrounded by residential homes. As stated, it is in an R2 zoned area. And today we actually received updated aerial imagery from Hamilton County. So this is preliminary aerial imagery. The yellow lot line should not be considered to be accurate. However, it does give a better updated image of the current site conditions. Here's the site plan that was the petitioner previously showed us. The violet buildings circled in red are the proposed temporary classrooms. Project renderings, again, the petitioner showed these to us. The one on the top there is looking at the temporary classrooms from the parking area to the east, and then the image below it is also from that direction. Looking east from Howe Road at the front of the church, the proposed temporary classrooms are not visible. I went out and visited the site and took a look at some of the landscaping conditions on the lot. So that little image on the left is where this picture on the right was taken from. The red lines are the field of view, the approximate field of view from the camera that I was using. So looking east from Howe Road at the northern landscape buffer from the driveway entrance of the northern property, staff believes that the plantings along this property line are they're still juvenile, and it feels that the existing landscape meets the landscape plan that was submitted with the church, and that the landscape will fill out as those trees mature. Looking at the southern property line, at the south side of the church, near the proposed temporary classrooms, we can see the contiguous mounding and fencing visible that was requested with the appeal of administrative determination from December 2020. Staff has received one public comment in opposition to this petition from Matthew Huffman, the neighbor directly to the north of the church property. Mr. Huffman is concerned with the lack of screening along the property line between his property and the church. The comment may be found in its entirety included with the staff report for this petition. Additionally, we have received 2 inquiries for additional information concerning the petition from nearby property owners, but no remonstration or comments have been submitted by those individuals. Staff recommends approval to the board of a land use variance from temporary use standards for 2 temporary classrooms for a maximum of 5 years. Staff feels that the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will allow for the use of temporary classrooms to facilitate the church's continued growth. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county. Excuse me.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. If anyone is here to speak as to this petition, I'd like to approach the podium. Please state your name and address. It looks like we may have more than one group of folks who want to speak about this petition. If there are more than one and you hear a comment that you'd like to repeat, just please let us know you're repeating that comment as opposed to stating the comment again, so that we can give everyone a chance to approach and address us. So with that, I'll open the public hearing for this petition. Who would like to go first? Thank you, ma'am. Hi.
Lynn Gallant, 13384 Howe Road, Fishers, Indiana, 46038. In consideration of this land use variance 581H of the city's UDO for R2 zoning, it states that this temporary permits are issued on a lot shall not exceed the 120 days or 90 consecutive days. I guess my first question is why is this variance allowed or relevant to commercial trailers in an R2 zoning? Secondly, you're asking for 1,825 consecutive days versus 90 days. This request appears to be unprecedented, especially that is surrounded exclusively by residential housing. As it was previously stated in the petitioner's overview, that there was the special exemption for those of us that were there when this was first approved, that this church shall not operate a daycare, school, or preschool. And as it was stated, this was predicated on the fact that that's why one of the reasons a special exemption was allowed, and now they're asking, they haven't been opened a year, and they already want to renege on this, or have time to renege on it. Going back to the staff report that Mr. Foltz gave, staff states that the commercial trailers will not negatively impact the surrounding areas. I'd like to know what precedent or example of commercial trailers in an R2 zoning area surrounded exclusively by residential housing is a positive situation. Staff also states the commercial trailers will not negatively decrease the value. I'd like to know what comprehensive study relevant to this area and this situation was used to establish the real estate valuations. As they pointed out there, the Huffmans have already spoke to concerns and possible violations, and I believe Bonnie Hart will speak to those too. In addition to that, on August 25th of this year, a formal complaint was made for high weeds and rancid vegetation concerning the maintenance on the South Side Mound. That is filed with Fisher's complaint 94211. Lego Bible Church subsequently failed an inspection for that complaint on 9/4 of 2022. The church has also been in non-compliance for rancid vegetation and weeds for up to 6 months. According to the Fishers City website and Fishers City inspectors on 9/28/22, which is today, this is still an ongoing investigation, and the church only showed an effort to comply once they found out they may be facing financial fines related to this noncompliance. In addition to all of this that's been mentioned, there is still probable and possible noncompliance on the height of the mounding on the north, south, and east side per the UDO. And also, they will be investigating the existing light fixture height and the light pollution. Past history is very relevant because the past is often a good predictor of the future. Let's address the current and outstanding issues before we create new ones. I implore you to decline this variance. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public?
Bonnie Hart, 13650 Howe Road, Fishers, Indiana. The Hoffmans are right next door, and I'm the next piece of property. There has been a lot of things that haven't been applied for. I still have lights going through my house from their lighting. They put up this 10,000-gallon eyesore because the fire department had to have it. We have to look at that. They have buses and stuff. I'm looking at that. And we were promised, that, and I've asked several times, and they did move the bus. And now it's right back where I sit on my back porch, and I look at all of this. And now I'm going to have to look at 2 trailers. The other thing is, I have a thing of their original floor plan here. And at the very end of their building, there is storage. There was supposed to be classrooms. It is, the pastor was nice enough. He gave me a full tour of the place. That whole area now stores their sheet music. And if I can give this to you, you can see how big of an area it is. Why can't that be used? I know you can digitally do sheet music, and it's all this here. From here back is nothing but sheet music. There's some computer things in here, but the majority of this could be used. And there's also the barn there that could be used. The downstairs of the barn, they could use that, and that has electricity in it, and their crops could go upstairs in the top of the barn. My question is, again, and I look, we were supposed to have this big mound. We don't have it. It stops, right past the house, the Hoffman's house, and I'm here. So there is absolutely no buffering for me. There's no mound for me. And I'm going to be looking at this. And I think it is gonna, when I go to sell that house in a few years, if something isn't built, you know, people are gonna say, well, I don't wanna look at that. I don't wanna look at a 10,000 ton tank and trailers. When there are obviously right there some things they could do before they got to that spot. And again, it's R2. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to address them? Oh.
William Gallant, 13384 Howe Road, Fishers, Indiana. I don't want to repeat everything my wife said, but there was one thing that we were assured of when the initial project was approved, that we wouldn't be negatively affected by this project. And what we've found is we have been negatively affected. We have real problems. She's listed several of them, the landscaping, the lighting. We are currently initiating an action against the Legacy Bible Church for trespassing and property damage. And it just shows to show you're putting a commercial application in a residential area. And I request that you deny this petition. Thank you.
Mike Henn, 13315 Howe Road. A couple things come to mind that I think are worth mentioning. Back when 2018, with the presentation at the church, it was, and I am repeating one statement, but it was very well stated that there would never be schools, or building of schools. And that was one of the major selling points to this. Number two, I don't think anybody was aware, or at least I wasn't, that, and what I didn't know was apparently appeals are not public. There was no meeting, no request like there was tonight sent to us as far as the appeal of December 2020 was concerned, which said, okay, now it's okay to go ahead and build schools on there. I do think appeals should be public as well. Number three, I'm in the sports and entertainment business. I do know that for 400 people, 225 spots, that's a lot of people going to church by themselves. That's not for me to judge, but I can tell you that if one of the major cases for this is to expand upon for 400 people, 225 spots, there's more than enough there. Another point that I've been given okay to say on behalf of a neighbor, Stan Clark, that I'm sitting back there with is, with the raising of the church property 5 feet, it's caused water damage in his basement. He's given me the okay to say that on behalf. So there are some things happening that aren't always big and public and glaring that people are affected by. And you do need to know that's a major case where a basement's getting flooded because of it. But again, I would ask that appeals be public meetings as well. And I would tell you again that if a major point is that 225 spots is not enough for 400 people, I'd have to vehemently disagree. Vehemently disagree. Been down that road a lot of times. So I'd like to see the request denied as well. And that's not having anything to do with, I went to Vacation Bible School my entire growing up. But I think it's how it's been presented, how it's been sold, how it started out as a process that said, no, we're not going down this road. And then the appeal not being public at all. That's not good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public? Seeing no one else from the public, I'll close the public hearing. Staff, do we have any response to some of the public comments?
Yeah, I'll address some of the questions, and then I'll turn it over to Legacy Bible Church to also address some of them. To discuss the landscaping, so staff is happy to go out there and complete another landscaping inspection to ensure all of the buffering is in compliance with that original plan. I will say that if it's not, then that would be kind of associated with the improvement location permit that was previously issued on this property and is separate from the request today. So we're happy to go out and complete another inspection to ensure compliance, and if it's not in compliance, they would need to bring up that landscaping with that landscaping plan that was submitted. So staff is happy to do that. The lighting concerns, so I know that we had done an inspection a few months ago and the shields were being ordered for the lights, and so I'll ask Legacy Bible Church to kind of speak to whether that shielding has been added. I know that there was some supply chain issues, so hopefully those are in now, but there should be 0-foot candles at the property line, so there should be no light pollution. Again, that's kind of associated with that permit, that improvement location permit, and so we'd want to ensure compliance with that even outside of this request. I did look up, there is an active high weeds and grass violation on this property, and so we'd want that to be addressed, of course, and so there's an active case for that. And then there was a condition of the initial special exception that there are no schools or daycares associated with this use, and I believe that that is still the case even with these portable classrooms being requested. So this would only be for their Sunday school service, and it's not for any sort of school or classroom outside of their regular Sunday service, but again, I'll have them confirm that. And then as far as the appeal process goes, for the appeal that formally we heard, that was not required to be public noticed, but it was a public meeting. So that was through the Fall Creek Board of Zoning Appeals at the time because the property was unannexed. Now that it's been annexed, it's before you all as the regular BZA. So I'll invite Legacy Bible Church to speak to the lighting and then also to the school use.
Yeah, as far as the school, there'd be no weekday daycare or school. It's primarily for Sunday school classes. For one would be for adults, and the second one would probably be divided for 2 children youth classes. They might get used during the week, but it would be women's Bible study 1 day a week for 2 hours, but nothing every day of the week or anything like that. The lighting issue, yeah, there were shrouds ordered. Those have been installed, and our contractors checked at the property line, and he's showing 0-foot candles. So, yeah, be glad to have him come out and check that. The issue with the weeds, we had with the weather and everything, the soil erosion barrier that was along the property lines, we had to wait apparently till 70% of the vegetation was in, so that our contractor had to wait, and trying to maintain that along that fence was a problem. And so once that fence was out, we've cut those weeds down and trying to keep that maintained now. So.
Members of the board, questions for staff or for Legacy?
Yeah.
Question?
Ma'am, I've closed the public hearing.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
I guess I would have a question regarding the use of the temporary trailers. I believe I heard someone mention Vacation Bible School, and at least traditionally the ones that I've been a part of, those were during the week. Can you address that, maybe the use of maybe the temporary trailers during that time period, if presuming your church has Vacation Bible School?
Well, we haven't. We never had any at our old facility, but I think we're planning to. But it would just be for 1 week in the summer, so it would be during when regular schools shut down. So that would be the only time, I think. But
It is during the week.
yes, for 1 week, but not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess from the project summary, it says the temporary classrooms will only be used to provide additional space for youth programming and Sunday school. Does the church have any plans of operating a nursery or a preschool or a school during the week?
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you.
Hey, may I add, I'm the pastor of Legacy Bible Church. May I add to that answer, or would that be out of order?
If you want to pass that along to Mr. Elliott and he can speak for you, that'd be great.
Yeah, when we made the promise in 2018 that we would never have a daycare, preschool, or school during the week, we would, abide by that. So that's what, we want to comply with everything. The landscaping, we planted almost 300 trees and almost 700 shrubs. And last year, when during construction, all the rain in the fall delayed some of the landscaping, and then this spring, and then the drought. So it's been a struggle, but we're trying. Our contractor's got several shrubs that are going to be replaced under 1 year warranty. So he's waiting till next spring to do that and replace anything that doesn't make it.
Was there anything else, sir, that you heard from the public that you'd like to address?
I don't think so.
Any other questions, board members?
No.
Okay. Again, I'm going to be abstaining, so if there's a motion to approve or deny, please put one forward.
Mr. President, I have one final question, if that's okay?
Yeah, please.
In terms of the request that the church has to have the temporary classrooms for up to 5 years while the church evaluates future growth, do you have a timetable in terms of when you anticipate to comprehensively look at the growth of your church? Or are you seeking to take that additional 5 years? So I think that may be an issue that the board may have, the length of this request for up to 5 years. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, well, we look at it monthly. It's what our growth is, trying to, manage the growth. And the schedule that I put out, we were 2.5 to 3 years, and we would hope, funding, and we don't have another pandemic, that we could, probably come close to the 3 years. But I know from this last project, things got delayed and things were out of our control. So we would rather ask for 5 and not have to come back for an extension.
Thank you.
Board members?
I make a motion that we deny VA 22-14.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary, you call the roll?
Mr. Grinsley?
No. Well, yes. Yeah, there you go.
Yes to his motion?
Yes to deny.
It's an affirmative to deny.
Motion
Correct.
to deny. Yes.
Correct.
Correct. All right, Mr. Sylvie?
Affirmative.
Mr. Stevenson?
No to the motion.
And Mr. Lannon?
No.
So your motion fails.
Motion fails.
So now you entertain any other motions.
Is there any other motion?
I'll make a motion to approve VA 22-14 with the condition that it's recorded on the property with the county.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Didn't you just vote it down?
So the process The process is a motion process. And so there was a motion to deny the application, that motion failed. Now there's a motion to approve the application, and that motion is currently up for consideration.
Yeah, Mr. President, yeah. I made the motion and it's been second. However, I would like to revise my motion, if that's.
Okay,
yeah.
why don't we strike your motion? And Mr. Stevenson, please restate your motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve, once again, VA 22-14. However, I would want to have the condition, instead of 5 years, I want to reduce that to 4 years for the request.
Okay. Do we need the petitioner to approve that, or can we?
You are free to approve whatever the board
Okay.
decides, the conditions you want to do.
So we have a motion. The motion is to approve your petition, Legacy, except instead of 5 years, the motion is reducing it to 4 years. So there's a motion pending before the board to approve it at 4 years and not 5 years. Again, I'm abstaining. I think do we have a second from Mr. Lannon? Mr. Lannon seconded. So, Secretary, if you call the roll on the motion to approve.
Mr. Grinslade,
No.
Mr. Sylvie,
No.
Mr. Stevenson,
Yes.
and Mr. Lannon.
Explain my vote. So I think that like these things are obviously like not the best looking things, right? Like my parents moved here in 1995, we went to Fisher's Elementary School and watched it balloon up, right? Like we all have watched our community balloon up. And it's not the best environment to get an education in. It's not the best environment to do anything productive in, particularly in the wintertime. I think there's a motivation there to move the ball down the field at some point, and for those reasons, I'm going to vote yes on it.
Okay, so we have motion to approve has now failed.
Has failed as well. So unless there's another motion by the board, then the petitioner, for lack of a better term, backs up and punts, and you can come back with another attempt at a variance with different terms, but this variance cannot pass.
You need three votes, either to deny or to approve, and because I have a conflict, I have to abstain. So at this point, the motion neither is approved or denied, and
Which is a fail.
is a
So
fail.
It's not approved.
It's not approved. Okay.
Now petitioner does have the opportunity to come back, retry this, come with a different project or a different proposal, but it has to be substantially different than what has been proposed here today.
Okay. Our next order of business, VA 22-16, Ryan Residence Height Variance. J.A. Yancey and Associates, on behalf of the homeowners, is requesting a variance of development standards to allow for a maximum primary structure height of 46 feet, as opposed to the maximum primary structure height of 35 feet that is permitted by the Hamilton Proper Planned Unit Development, Ordinance 010693A. In order to accommodate a new single-family residence, the site is located at 11328 Great Blue Trace in the Horizon neighborhood that is generally located south of 116th Street in between Hoosier Road and Brook School Road. Sydney Granlund is, J.A. Yancey, is that you, sir?
Jeff Yancey.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and proceed.
Hi, my name's Jeff Yancey. I'm a builder. I'm building a home for the Ryans, and Stu Ryan is sitting back here in the audience. And what we are proposing is a height variance from your standard 35 feet to, I think we're 45 plus. We're under 46 feet. And I think that we have a drawing of elevation up here. And I'm just going to say whatever we're doing should not negatively impact the neighborhood. And how do I go to the next slide? Okay, this is the house right next door to it. And what I did was I took a photo of the house. There's some distortion because of angle. I scaled the house with the garage doors being 16 feet and verified it with the front door being 8 feet tall. And doing that, this overall house comes out at 40, I think it's 41, I don't know, can you like zoom in on this or something? It's 41 or 42 feet tall is what it comes out. So this house right next door to us, and we happen to be on a corner lot, is already taller than your 35-foot requirement. And There is actually an additional ridge in the back that I cannot capture in the picture that goes another 2 feet above where I do capture the front gable, the tallest point. The roof in the back goes actually about 2 feet taller than that. So in this neighborhood, this is a typical house that I think that, I'm not sure when this approval process came about where you start approving homes over 35 feet. But I think most of these homes in this neighborhood you would find are over 35 feet. And that's because the homes have to be pulled out of the ground because of the water table and given the lake behind it and all the sand and gravel in that area. And that's why you'll notice the front porch on the house next door is so tall as well. And I don't know if I need to go back to, let's try, yeah. Back to ours. We have the same height basically as the house next door on the front porch, and our ground floor is the same height as the house next door.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sydney?
Good evening. My name is Sydney Granlin. I'm a planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning, and tonight I'll be giving the staff report for VA-22-16, Ryan Residence Height Variance. The property is located at 11328 Great Blue Trace in the Horizon neighborhood, south of 116th Street, in between Hoosier Road and Brooks School Road. It is currently zoned Hamilton Proper Planned Unit Development. The petitioner is J.A. Yancey and Associates on behalf of the lot owners. The maximum primary structure height for homes in Hamilton proper is 35 feet, and the home proposed for this lot is just under 46 feet tall. The site is a corner lot in the Horizon. It is currently vacant with a single-family home proposed on the lot. Here is the proposed site plan showing a single-family residence on the lot. And here is the front elevation of the proposed home provided by the petitioner. The longest red arrow shows the home being measured at 45.9 feet tall. Again, the maximum primary structure height according to the Hamilton Proper PUD is 35 feet tall, and this request would be for a primary structure height of 46 feet tall. Here are a few homes that have already been built in the Horizon. The top left image is of the home directly next door to the proposed home site. Staff believes the proposed home is of similar character to the existing homes in the Horizon. I have received a few inquiries about this project related to how the home will fit in with the existing neighborhood. Staff does believe it is of similar character and quality to the homes that have already been built in the Horizon. Staff recommends approval to the board of a variance from the Hamilton Proper PUD Development Standards, section 4.B.4, to allow for a maximum primary structure height of 46 feet instead of 35 feet. I do want to note to the board that the petitioner made staff aware of a backup plan that would reduce the height of the home to around 40 feet. This backup plan would still require a variance, however, since it is over 35 feet. However, staff is still supportive of the 46-foot variance. Staff feels the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will allow for the construction of a new single-family home to increase the property value. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county. Thank you.
Thanks. This time I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone's here from the public to speak to this, please step forward, state your name and address. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board? Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve. I move to approve VA 2216.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I just want to add, there was a condition for the recording of the...
With staff's conditions. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the petition with the recording, with the petition being approved. Variance being recorded on the property. Excuse me. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Secretary?
Mr. Grinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Landon.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. Our next order of business is VA 22-17, Art Jack Creative Studio Use Variance, Tammy Kelly, on behalf of Art Jack Creative Studio, is requesting a variance of use from the UDO to allow an indoor recreation use, which is an art studio in the C1 Commercial Zoning District. The site is located at 7340 Crossing Place in the Fishers Crossing subdivision, generally located north of 116th Street and west of Allisonville Road. Are you Ms. Kelly?
I am.
Please go forward.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Kelly. I'm here on behalf of Art Jack Creative Studio. I am the leasing agent for the property, the subject property, and we are requesting a use variance for an art studio. So Art Jack Creative is a startup arts and crafts studio created by Allison O'Malley for her son Jack O'Malley, an artist who is a young adult with autism. And their mission is to entertain and inspire creativity in the community, support the needs of local artists of all kinds, and provide occupations for artists and others with disabilities. They'll serve the community by providing opportunities for children and adults to experience arts of all types. They will offer creative experiences in a variety of arts, including crafting, painting, glass, ceramics, jewelry, written, botanical, and photographic arts. At the same time, they'll allow individuals with disabilities to create, work, and socially interact with members of the community in a safe, inspired setting. I believe that this is compatible with surrounding tenants. There's an adult daycare right next door that they've even talked about trying to do some things with the adult daycare. And we feel it's a great service for the community and feel like it's compatible with the other tenants in the building, and we would like your approval.
Thank you. This time, I'd ask the staff to present. Sydney?
Good evening. My name is Sydney Granlin. I'll be giving the staff report on VA 22-17, Art Jack Creative Studio Use Variance. The property is located at 7340 Crossing Place in the Fishers Crossing subdivision, north of 116th Street and west of Allisonville Road. It is currently zoned C1 Commercial District. The petitioner is Tammy Kelly on behalf of Art Jack Creative Studio. An art studio would be considered an indoor recreation use, which is permitted in the C2 and C3 zoning districts, but not in C1, which is the zoning of this property. This request is to allow an indoor recreation use in the C1 district. This map shows how close this property lies to other properties that are zoned C2 and C3, where indoor recreation would be permitted. The UDO defines indoor recreation as commercial uses varying in size, providing daily or regularly scheduled entertainment-oriented activities in an indoor setting. It does not specifically call out an art studio, but it does call out uses such as dance or music studios. Based on this definition and examples of the use outlined in the UDO, staff determined that this was the best classification for an art studio. The studio would be in Suite 50 of a larger existing office building. The current building houses several other businesses, such as Bilingual Consulting, Corcoran Logistics, and the Anxiety Center. The petitioner went over this, but I will just read again a little excerpt from Art Jack's business plan. Art Jack will serve our community by providing opportunities for children and adults to experience arts of all types. We will offer creative experiences in a variety of arts, including crafting, painting, glass, ceramics, jewelry, written, botanical, and photographic arts. At the same time, Art Jack will allow individuals with disabilities to create, work, and socially interact with members of their community in a safe, inspired setting. Here are a few images of the space intended for use by Art Jack Creative Studio. The space would hold classes and open studio time for individuals, with the owner expecting between 30 and 40 people using the studio each day. The owner plans to offer about 10 classes a week to start, potentially offering more in the future, and expects class sizes to be about 8 to 10 people. Studio hours will vary throughout the week, but fall between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. The activities will be fully enclosed within their space inside the building, and the petitioner confirmed that it meets all the parking requirements outlined in the UDO as well. I have received one question about this project regarding the potential for the studio to have classes or any events outside of the space. As previously mentioned, the petitioner plans for all activities to be fully enclosed within the building. Staff recommends approval to the board of a variance from the permitted use table to allow for an indoor recreation use in the C1 commercial district. Staff feels the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will allow for a new art studio in the area for members of the public to enjoy. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county, and we would also add the condition that the variance is tied to the use and not the property itself. Thank you.
This time we're going to open for public hearing. If anyone's here to speak about this, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Michael Colby, C-O-L-B-Y. I live at 7105 Cold Dyke Drive. I'm representing the River Glen Homeowners Association. And I don't know if I can get the property back up to kind of give you an idea of where the proximity is to our community. Yeah. I was the one who brought the issue up about the use and so forth. You can see we're residential. We're right behind there. Some of the homes are 30 feet from the property line, maybe a little longer. My concern is that, and I've already heard that the variance, if approved, would be a use variance and not run with the land, because I don't know what I can expect with the recreation if they happen to go away and something else comes in. The other thing I'd ask for, if the petitioner agrees, is to have a commitment that there'll be no outside activities. I know it's inside, but because of the type of activity, conceivable they could have an art show in the parking lot, something along that line, which it could conceivably create some noise for the surrounding community. And let me just say parenthetically, we're residential backing up to a C1. That wouldn't happen today. But we happen to live with the sins of our previous planners. No offense. That would no longer happen. There'd be a buffer, there'd be some apartments, there'd be some other stuff. We have a Kroger that backs up to and we hear trucks and all sorts of things. So I just want to make sure, if the petitioner is willing to do it, that they commit to not having any outside starving artist or any kind of a show where there might be food trucks and music. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board, do we have any questions for staff or for the petitioner?
I do for staff. Sydney?
Sure.
Could you repeat what you said about parking?
Yeah, the petitioner confirmed that they would meet all the parking requirements outlined in the UDO.
Okay, thank you.
They have a lot of parking since it's a multi-tenant building, so they didn't express any concerns about parking.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I like Mr. Colby's suggestion regarding the no outside activity.
I was going to put that in my motion.
Okay.
So I do have a question for Tammy. Could you come up? Sure. Is the petitioner willing to accept a voluntary commitment that there be no outside activity?
I believe so. I mean, the way it's not a traditional art studio where they're going to have shows outside, and I mean it's basically catering to people with disabilities that will be inside. They'll have their classes inside. They're going to have open studio. It's not going to be a high volume traffic type of location.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve VA 22-17 on the condition that the variance is recorded on the property and that no outside activities take place. Use.
Would you like to rephrase your motion? Would you like to restate your motion?
Sure. We'll approve VA 22-17, the condition that the use is with the property, no outside activities take place.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think Mr. Sylvie was first. I heard him.
First to the draw. You're quick to the draw. I'm a little slower.
So we have a motion and a second. Secretary, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Grinsley.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lannon.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes with the voluntary commitment that there be no outside activity, and this is a use variance. It doesn't run with the land, and it will be recorded. Thank you very much. Our next order of business is VA 22-19, Cambridge Lot 369, impervious coverage variance. Troy Teru, who we've seen a number of times in the past with True North Surveying on behalf of the homeowners, is requesting a variance of development standards to allow for an increase in impervious lot coverage to 42.5% to accommodate a planned pool and patio space, as opposed to the maximum 35% impervious lot coverage permitted by the Fishers UDO. The site is zoned R2. It's located at 10590 Geist View Drive, generally located on the southeast side of Geist Reservoir and west of Oleo Road in the Springs of Cambridge neighborhood. Mr. Teru.
A question with the board real quick. It's been a long meeting tonight. Would everybody appreciate an abbreviated presentation?
That would be appreciated as long as you're able to cover
I
the
am.
material.
All right, I apologize. Which one is this?
This one is 369 and it's 10590.
Oh, thank you. Troy Teru of True North Surveying, presenting for the property owners to exceed the 35% lot coverage requirement for this subdivision zoning. This is to construct a pool and patio similar to multiple other homes in Springs of Cambridge. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Teru. I'd ask the staff to present. Tyler, what do you got for us?
Well, good evening. My name is Tyler Folk. I'm a city planner here at the City of Fishers, here to present the staff report on VA 22-19, Cambridge Lot 369, impervious surface. Petitioner is Troy Teru on behalf of Mitford Homes. The specific request is the consideration of a development standards variance to allow for impervious lot coverage up to 42.5%. This would be a variance from the R2 development standards, which limit impervious surface coverage to 35%. Location is at 10590 Geist View Drive. It is an R2 zoned single-family residential lot in the Springs of Cambridge subdivision, just off Geist Reservoir. You can see it there, the little red square on that map. Here are the existing conditions. As you can see, it is a single-family residential home surrounded by other single-family residential homes. Existing conditions, the drainage pattern on the lot. The vast majority of the lot will sheet flow north into Geist Reservoir as represented by the blue arrows on that map there. The green circle in the front yard is a storm inlet which will collect runoff from the front yard. That runoff will then be conveyed via a storm pipe directly into Geist Reservoir. So even the southern portion of the lot in the front yard that drains into the storm system will not be going very far. Here again, we see the site plan, which shows the proposed pool and patio space on the north side of the lot, adjacent to Geist Reservoir. Staff has received no public comments regarding this variance, and staff recommends approval to the board of a variance from R2 development standards to allow for an increase in impervious surface of lot coverage from 35% to 42.5%. Staff feels the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will allow for the construction of outdoor improvements to increase the home's property value. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions for Mr. Teru? At this time, I'd open the public hearing. If anyone is here for the public to speak on this, please approach the podium.
Hi, for the record, Michael Colby, 7105 Cold Lake Drive, here in Fishers. I have brought the issue of the impervious surface before the committee before, and I've gotten some feedback from the city that they don't intend to pursue what I'm suggesting is an unfair practice. But for the record, I want to continue to exercise my right. The 35% is a standard that's used in residential, and I'm not certain, I've not been able to get an answer, what impact the increasing impervious surface has on the stormwater bills. Because we all pay based upon that 35%. And I've seen many times where either PUDs at the council and variances here, they were increasing that amount. So for the record, I just question what impact that increasing impervious surface has on stormwater bill. It's what the calculation is. The other thing is I heard is there's no impact. Well, when you have more runoff into Geist, you're bringing in nutrients, fertilizers, and so forth. And there's already an algae problem in Geist. So by doing these and continue to increase in the impervious surface, you're increasing the runoff that goes into Geist. And I know we're not there yet, but my comments would follow in the next thing that's going to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other members of the public? At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments for staff or for petitioner?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve VA 22-19 on the condition that the variance is recorded with the property in the county.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Secretary?
Mr. Grinslade.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lannon.
Yes.
And Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes. Our last order of business this evening is VA 22-20, Cambridge Lot 418, impervious coverage variance. Mr. Tarue with True North Surveying, on behalf of the homeowners, is requesting a variance of development standards to allow for an increase in impervious lot coverage to 45% to accommodate a planned pool and patio space as opposed to 35% impervious lot coverage permitted by the Fishers UDO. The site is zoned R2. It's located at 13473 Lake Ridge Lane, generally located on the southeast side of Geist Reservoir and west of Oleo Road in the Springs of Cambridge neighborhood. Mr. Tarue.
Troy Tarue of True North Surveying, representing the property owners for Lot 418 in Springs of Cambridge. We have a pool, rear pool and patio, and some driveway addition improvements that we are requesting that will require us to exceed to the 35%, and therefore we are here to request a variance to exceed the 35% lot coverage requirement. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tarue. Mr. Polk?
Well, good evening again. Tyler Folk, City of Fishers, Department of Planning and Zoning, here to present the staff report on VA 22-20, Cambridge Lot 418 impervious surface coverage. Troy Tarue is the petitioner on behalf of Heather Collins, the property owner. The specific request is the consideration of a development standards variance to allow for impervious coverage to 45%. This would be a variance from the R2 development standards, which limit impervious coverage to 35%. Location is 13473 Lake Ridge Lane. It is a single-family R2 lot located in the Springs of Cambridge subdivision, just off Geist Reservoir. A residential building permit was issued in December 2021 after the imagery here was taken, so there's currently a home under construction on this lot. Drainage pattern on this lot, again, the majority of this lot is going to sheet flow south into Geist Reservoir, with the front yard stormwater runoff being collected by a storm inlet circled in green in the street and then conveyed via storm pipe into Geist Reservoir as well. Here again, we see the site plan with the proposed pool and patio improvements on the south side of the house adjacent to the reservoir. Staff has received no public comments concerning this variance petition. And then staff recommends approval to the board of a variance from R2 development standards to allow for an increase in impervious surface lot coverage from 35% to 45%. Staff feels the project will not negatively affect the surrounding area, cause a decrease in net assessed value, or be detrimental to the health and safety of others, but approval will allow for the construction of outdoor improvements to increase the home's property value. Should the board approve this petition, staff recommends it is done with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. This time I'm going to open the public hearing.
My previous comments.
Could you approach the podium?
Sure.
Thank you. Just state your name and address for the record. So we have a clear record.
Michael Colby, 7105 Cold Lake Drive here in Fishers. And my comment on the previous petition would apply to this circumstance. I'm taking exception with the increase in impervious surface and the negative impact on Geist with the runoffs, and then what impact that would have on stormwater fees.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Members of the board, any questions or comments for staff or Mr. Charu?
Not a question, but a comment. To piggyback on what Mr. Colby said for the staff, is there a way that we can study? I think that's an interesting question regarding the impact on stormwater bills with the increase in impervious use. Is there a way that we can look into that?
Yeah, so for those that know, I used to work in the stormwater department here at the city of Fishers. I think that would be a good conversation to have with Jason Armour, the stormwater engineer. My understanding is that the stormwater billing system is what they did was they took the average of impervious surface coverage on all the residential lots and then apply a flat fee to all the residential lots, whereas commercial lots, we would calculate the actual total impervious on the lot and then bill per that coverage. So a Walmart parking lot is going to have to pay much higher fees than a single-family residential lot. But yes, Mr. Colby does raise some good points concerning billing, but I think that would be a conversation that would need to be had with our stormwater department.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
1 second, sir. 1 second.
And I'm just going to add that from a residential perspective, it's harder enforcement-wise because not all residential improvements require permits. And so someone can pave a patio on their home without notifying the city, and that is perfectly legal. And so the enforcement of that really just isn't realistic with the capacity of staff at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. True, do you have a comment?
Yes, I actually agree with the remonstrator here. One thing is with permitting currently with City Fishers, all new permits require impervious surface to be calculated on the permit itself. So there is a stage set for at least new permits to be able to reflect on a stormwater bill, so to speak, what their permitted lot coverage was per lot. I don't know. I'm seeing more and more communities require lot coverage calculations on all permits being submitted, and I suspect a couple communities are preparing to start billing based on that coverage. So I believe he has a valid point. Previous lots, I'm not sure existing lots, it'd be hard to assess, it'd be a hassle, but at least new lots going forward could have that potential. I talk to Jason on a regular basis about this kind of information, Jason and more. So, sorry, I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there.
Thank you.
We've not often had a petitioner remonstrate. That's your left side of your brain and your right side of your brain, I think, Mr. Giroux. With that, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve VA 22-20 with the condition that the variance is recorded on the property with the county.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Grinslade.
Yes.
Mr. Sylvie.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Lanning.
Yes.
And Mr. Ferrucci.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, is there any old business this evening? New business?
Yeah, the only thing in new business that I will add is the church. What you guys did this evening was a no action, basically, so the church does have the right to come back to the next month and have it heard again. But as I said in public hearing, unless it's substantially different than what they propose, are likely to get the same kind of voting, so.
Well, we'll have at least one additional voter.
I will.
Oh, I do apologize. No, I do apologize. Yes, we will. It'll be the status quo. You're right.
I like to
Actually be
think.
here next time.
I hope I don't get hit by a bus between now and then.
I didn't mean to suggest that. I forgot about the recusal.
Yeah, but staff will communicate with them, and if they can come back with some substantially different, something that'll swing the vote one way or the other, then. Now, mindful of this is the fact that you all as board members cannot communicate with staff or the petitioner with respect to what the changes may be, because you're sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity. So you just have to wait and see.
Okay. Thank you.
Any staff communication?
Only communication is that this is our new home.
Oh, okay, we
as
got a
of
home.
What we know right now. So this is where we will be meeting for the next 2 years, essentially.
Okay.
Megan, does that include Plan Commission as well?
No.
Okay, so we're,
That's BZA.
okay.
Thank you, Megan.
Fall Creek and regular BZA, correct, yeah.
Okay, do you have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.